This is the best way to punish human traffickers. First, strip them of all their clothes. Then, smash a block of ice at 100 degrees Celsius. To ensure the traffickers' freshness, place them stably while pouring all the smashed ice into a wooden container. Next, slowly lift the heavy container and carefully move them to the woman's neck, leaving only their head exposed for breathing. To prevent the trafficker from escaping during the punishment, this prison specially designed an exceptionally strong belt that could be easily fastened to the ice bucket. No matter how desperately the prisoners resisted, they could not escape this inevitable fate. However, in less than 2 months, the woman who deserved it the most began to feel numbness in her lower body and completely lost sensation below her neck. Her expression was extremely painful as she groaned with difficulty. Then she turned to look at the prisoners who had already entered the prison. Because they had been soaked in the ice bucket for a long time, the companion's body was extremely weak. At this moment, the two faced each other, but they were ultimately unable to express their remorse in words. However, how could the prison let them off so easily? Several people first tortured the traffickers to the point of near death, and then deliberately let them rest for a while. Just when they were about to regain their strength, they poured boiling water all over their bodies. Afterwards, they imprisoned them in a dark and gloomy little black room, making them personally experience the fear of being abducted as children. For the first week, the skylight would be completely open, allowing those greedy traffickers to enjoy the long-lost warm sunshine. But on the 8th day, the skylight was tightly sealed. Under the shadow of despair, they slowly lost the ability to breathe. Even their food was delivered through a narrow opening in the door, and the food provided was so bad that even poultry could hardly swallow it. Soon they would be starved and left to suffocate, eventually walking step by step to the end of their lives. However, this human trafficker was not so lucky. The woman was dragged into the water without any warning, but this was by no means a simple bath, but a cruel high-temperature torture. Then, on the doctor's instructions, the assistant quickly closed the iron door that imprisoned him. Then, the doctor ruthlessly turned on the heating valve, and the temperature in the pool rose rapidly. However, seeing the female trafficker struggling desperately, the doctor could not release her because she had not confessed to her crimes. Despite the doctor's repeated insistence that she confess, the female trafficker stubbornly refused to admit her guilt, insisting that she was not the culprit. At this point, the doctor's anger reached its peak. Because the female trafficker was unwilling to admit her crimes, the doctor decided to take more extreme measures. The assistant was ordered to prepare a pool of ice that had been frozen for thousands of years, and the prisoner was immersed in it without his knowledge. Under this torment of hot and cold, the female trafficker finally confessed to her crimes. Perhaps at this moment, they could truly understand the pain and despair of those children.